The stars above the neutral world of Aurealis Prime glittered like shards of ice. Around it, Concord Station drifted in silence, the shining heart of the Galactic Council. Every major species had a seat here. Every important decision for peace and law came from this place. For 200 years, no warship had ever dared to approach the station uninvited. That peace ended tonight. The first sign of trouble came as a small red dot on the long-range display. The sensor officer, a young Lyrian with translucent skin, leaned forward. "Unidentified jump signature," she said softly. At first, no one reacted. Space traffic was common, but then the readings began to climb. The object was huge, far bigger than any trade ship. Its energy readings were sharp and clean, not like the lazy waves of civilian engines. It was a warship. Within seconds, alarms began to howl through the command decks. Security fields activated, shutters sealed windows, and council guards hurried to their stations. The chamber lights shifted from calm gold to warning red. In the great council hall, hundreds of representatives started shouting at once. The insectoid Vresh clattered their limbs, demanding to know who had breached the treaty zone. The scaled Drakarn ambassadors hissed orders to their bodyguards. Even the quiet Ithari, beings made of mist and light, flickered with nervous energy. No one knew who the ship belonged to, but everyone could feel the tension in the air. Concord Station had never been attacked, but there was always a first time. Then came the data confirmation. The transponder code blinked on the screen, an old pattern written in an ancient digital language. The translation unit stuttered for a moment before it identified the signal. The room fell silent when the name appeared. UNSC Dauntless. There was a pause that seemed to last forever. Someone whispered the name again, as if saying it out loud might make it less real. "It's a human warship." The words spread like fire through the hall. Panic followed. The Vresh started screaming, their translator units buzzing. "Humans are banned from this sector," one of them cried. "They were cast out after Valor." "They cannot be here!" The Drakarn slammed their tails on the floor, demanding shields and weapons to be raised. The AI envoy, represented by a glowing sphere of light, simply said in a flat tone, "Probability of hostile intent, 89%. The Speaker of the Council, an aged amphibian named Tolvar, struggled to keep order. "Quiet, all of you! We will verify this before making decisions." But even he sounded uncertain. The humans were legends, half monsters, half heroes. No one alive had seen a human in centuries. Many believed they had vanished or gone back to their home system to destroy themselves in one of their endless wars. And yet, one of their ships now floated above Aurealis Prime in the heart of Council space. On the main screen, the image of the Dauntless appeared. It was massive, gray, and cold. Its surface was marked with strange symbols, human writing that no one present could fully read. The ship was not sleek like Council vessels. It was blocky, built for function, not beauty. But there was something terrifying about its design. It looked like a predator drifting among prey. The Council guards locked weapons. Power fields came online. Every defense battery on Concord Station turned toward the intruder. Yet the Dauntless did not move. It simply stayed in orbit, quiet and still, as if watching. "Has it sent any signal?" Tolvar asked. "Negative," the Lyrian replied. "No hails, no broadcasts. No weapon locks detected, but they are scanning us." "Scanning?" "Yes, Speaker. Deep scan. They're reading the entire station. Systems, biosigns, everything." Murmurs filled the chamber again. The Athari envoy flickered nervously. "This is an act of aggression. They are preparing to strike." But then, the image on the screen shifted. A single line of text appeared. It was written in Galactic Common, clear and deliberate. "We come under Council authority." The room erupted again. "Lies!" shouted a Drakarn. "No human holds any Council authority." Others demanded immediate destruction of the ship. Tolvar silenced them with a raised hand. "Wait," he said. "Let's see what they want." An audio transmission followed. The voice was human, firm, calm, confident. "This is Captain Reyes of the United Nations Space Command vessel Dauntless. We come on a mission of Council interest. You might not remember granting it." The voice ended. Silence followed, broken only by the low hum of the translation systems. The Council members stared at one another, unsure what to do. Tolvar finally spoke, his tone low. "Captain Reyes, This is the Speaker of the Council. State your purpose." For a long time, there was no answer. Then the human voice returned, faint but steady. "We have something you must see." The transmission cut. In the background, the Dauntless began to move. Slowly, gracefully, it adjusted its orbit, coming closer to Concord Station. Defense computers went wild. "Weapon range in 30 seconds, said a guard. "Requesting permission to fire! Hold fire!" Tolvar shouted. He knew what would happen if the Council opened fire first. The humans were dangerous. Even one of their ships could destroy worlds. And if they were here, there might be more. "Speaker," said the AI envoy, its tone sharper now. "Our databases show no active human fleets, yet their technology is reading far beyond known limits. That vessel could flatten this station if provoked." The Vresh ambassador turned to Tolvar, her many eyes flashing with fear. "They are testing us. You must strike before they do." But Tolvar's gaze stayed fixed on the screen. The Dauntless had stopped moving again. Its lights dimmed, almost like the ship was watching them think. He whispered, "No, not yet." Down on Aurealis Prime, people were already panicking. Civilian transports began to flee orbit. Broadcasts filled the airwaves. "Human warship sighted. Evacuation in progress." Traders shut down their markets. Even smugglers abandoned their ships at the docks. The shadow of the Dauntless hung over the planet like a warning from the past. Inside the council hall, fear turned into argument. Everyone spoke at once, blaming, shouting, demanding action. Tolvar felt old and tired as he watched them. This was supposed to be the age of peace, but now that peace hung by a thread. "Perhaps they come for revenge," said one delegate. "Perhaps for justice," said another. "Or maybe," Tolvar murmured quietly, "they come because something worse follows behind them." At that moment, the Dauntless sent another message. This time it wasn't just sound, it was visual. A human appeared on the central holo display, standing straight in a gray uniform. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Council members," he said, "we mean you no harm. We bring warning of a greater danger. Please allow communication." He paused, then added, "Our records show this council once signed a secret pact with humanity. You may have forgotten." "We have not." With that, the image vanished. For several seconds, no one moved. The only sound was the distant vibration of engines and the low hum of defensive systems. Tolvar's hands trembled. Could this be true? There were rumors, of course, stories of old alliances made before the great AI wars. But those were supposed to be myths. The council archives had no record of such a pact. Still, the human's voice had carried something rare, confidence, and a touch of sorrow. The council's military commander, a dracarn covered in silver scales, leaned forward. "Speaker, if this is true, then someone erased the records. Why?" "Perhaps," Tolvar said softly, "because the truth was too dangerous." He turned back to the screen where the Dauntless still floated, silent and steady. "Captain Reyes," he said under his breath, "what do you know that we don't?" In the shadows of the great chamber, the AI envoy pulsed faintly. Its sensors whispered calculations. "Prediction," it said. "The human vessel will act again soon. Purpose, unknown. Risk level, extreme." Outside the station, the stars remained still. The Dauntless hung like a dark moon above Aurealis Prime, its hull reflecting no light. It didn't need to threaten. Its very presence was a message. The humans had returned, and the galaxy was no longer certain what that meant. Somewhere deep inside the Dauntless, Captain Reyes watched the same stars through the command window. His crew worked quietly behind him, their faces serious but calm. They knew the fear they caused. They also knew what they had seen out there, beyond the edge of known space. "Will they listen?" asked his first officer. Reyes didn't answer for a moment. His eyes stayed on the image of the council station, bright and fragile against the dark. Finally, he said, "They will panic first, then they'll listen." "They always do," the officer nodded slowly. "And if they don't?" Reyes sighed. "Then we remind them why they once called us allies." The lights on the bridge dimmed. Alarms blinked quietly in the corner. Nothing dangerous, just the ship's systems adapting to the local star's gravity. Everything felt calm, almost peaceful. But the peace was thin, fragile, like glass under pressure. Out in the void, far from the Council's sensors, something else stirred. Something vast and silent, moving closer to the galactic core. Reyes didn't need to see it to know it was there. That was why he had come. Above Aurealis Prime, the Dauntless waited. On Concord Station, the Council held its breath, and in that tense, endless silence, the galaxy stood on the edge of remembering what humanity truly was. What humanity truly was. The Council chamber was still in uproar. The noise of 100 voices echoed through the domed hall like a storm trapped under glass. Even the translator drones were struggling to keep up. Every race shouted in its own language, overlapping in waves of panic and accusation. Speaker Tolvar sat in his raised seat, trying to calm them, but even his deep, commanding voice was drowned out. The arrival of the human warship had shaken every government in the galaxy. For 2 centuries, the humans had been gone, exiled to their quiet corner of space. Their return now could only mean something dangerous. Silence. Tolvar finally roared, his voice amplified by the chamber's speakers. "We cannot make decisions while shouting." The voices slowed, then stopped. Only the faint hum of the station's engines filled the silence. Tolvar looked across the sea of faces, scaled, furred, metal, and light. Every one of them stared back, waiting for him to say something that could make sense of what had happened. "We have received a message," he said carefully. "Captain Reyes claims to be here under Council authority. That is impossible, but we will investigate. We will—" He was interrupted by the insectoid Vresh ambassador, who slammed her forearms on the table. "Investigate? While that monster circles above us? Humans do not visit, Speaker. They invade. That ship must be destroyed before it acts." Several others agreed. The Drakarn delegation hissed in support, their tails lashing the floor. "The humans are predators. They only speak when they mean to strike." But the AI envoy pulsed with blue light. "Historical data shows humans are unpredictable," it said. "Probability of deception, high. Probability of immediate attack, low. Their captain's words suggest negotiation." Tolvar nodded slowly. "Then we negotiate." The Vresh envoy gave a clicking laugh. "Negotiate with demons? With the species that silenced entire fleets?" Tolvar turned toward her. "Yes," he said. "Because if we are wrong, and they are not here for war, then firing first will doom us all." No one argued after that. The weight of his words hung heavy. The silence protocol, the weapon humanity had used at the end of the siege of Valor, was still a wound in galactic memory. The weapon had wiped out 3 AI civilizations in one moment, erasing their minds from existence. It had taken a century to rebuild what was lost. No one wanted to see what the humans might bring now. Tolvar signaled the security officers. "Open a channel. Visual transmission." The chamber dimmed as the holographic screen shimmered into existence. After a few seconds, the human face appeared again. Captain Reyes looked exactly as before, calm, steady, unshaken by the chaos he was causing. His gray uniform bore a single symbol, a silver star and a pair of wings, ancient markings from a forgotten fleet. "Captain Reyes," Tolvar began, "you claim to be acting on Council authority. Explain yourself." Reyes nodded once. 200 years ago, your predecessors signed a sealed agreement with Earth, the Pact of Veil. It stated that if the threat beyond the galactic rim returned, humanity would intervene, whether invited or not. Murmurs filled the room. None of the current council members had ever heard of this. Even the AI envoy flickered, searching its deep memory banks for any record. There was nothing. Tolvar frowned. "You expect us to believe such an agreement exists?" "I don't expect," Reyes replied simply. "I know." He turned away from the camera and gestured. Another figure stepped into view, not human, tall, gray-skinned, with crystalline eyes. Gasps rippled through the council. It was a Cathari. "Impossible," whispered the Cathari envoy inside the hall. "That cannot be." But the figure on the Dauntless looked identical, wearing the same kind of robes, the same ceremonial jewels. Reyes placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. "Meet Elder Cyro of the Cathari Watch. He is 231 years old. He was present when the pact was made." Cyro bowed slightly. "It is true," he said in a soft voice. The council feared the architects might return. Humanity promised to act as the sword, hidden until needed. Tolvar stared at him. Why has no one ever spoken of this? Ciro's expression darkened. Because someone erased the records. Someone wanted the galaxy to forget. The words hit the council like a thunderclap. The room filled with whispers. If this was true, it meant that some part of the council, perhaps generations ago, had deliberately destroyed the truth. Reyes continued. We have been watching from beyond the outer rim, and now we bring warning. Something is moving in the dark. Systems on the edge of mapped space have gone silent. Entire colonies gone. Our ships found the remains of civilizations reduced to ash. The same energy signatures the architects once used. The AI envoy pulsed violently. Verification requested. Reyes pressed a control on his console. The hollow screen filled with images. Worlds burned black, fleets frozen in the void, strange structures growing from dead moons like metal vines. Even the bravest delegates flinched. The Vresh ambassador hissed and turned away. These are from Sector Thalan 12, Reyes said. Your charts mark it as uninhabited. It isn't anymore. They are rebuilding. Tolvar leaned forward. The architects were extinct. They destroyed themselves. Reyes shook his head. No, they fled. And now they've returned to finish what they started. The chamber went still. For the first time since the Dauntless had arrived, there was no shouting, no arguing. Only fear. Reyes' voice softened. We didn't come to threaten you. We came to warn you, and to offer our help. The hollow flickered off. The human was gone. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, the Drakarn commander broke the silence. It could be a trick. The humans might be using fear to gain power again. The Vresh envoy nodded quickly. Yes, a clever lie. They know we will unite against the architects. They want to lead us. Tolvar rubbed his temples. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. Look outside. Our weapons are locked on them. They haven't fired once. The AI envoy's voice was quiet now, almost uncertain. Analysis complete. The images are authentic. The data patterns match the energy readings of ancient architect relics. Probability of deception, below 5%. The news hit like a physical blow. So it's true, whispered Tolvar. The architects are back. The Cathari envoy stood, her voice trembling. Speaker, this changes everything. We must prepare. But first, we must know who erased the truth. Someone within our history wanted us blind, Tolvar nodded grimly. And whoever that was, they may still hold power. Outside, the Dauntless glided silently, its gray hull reflecting the faint light of Borealis Prime. To the people below, it looked like a ghost from the past. But to Tolvar, it had become something else entirely, a warning and perhaps the last hope of survival. He looked toward the AI envoy. Send word to all sectors, quietly. I want to know who erased the Pact of Vale and why. And prepare a landing zone. Captain Reyes is coming aboard. As the council broke into hurried movement, the speaker stared once more at the stars. For the first time in decades, he felt the cold weight of history pressing down. Across the void, aboard the Dauntless, Captain Reyes turned to Elder Ciro. They believe us now. Ciro's crystalline eyes glowed faintly. They believe, yes, but they do not yet trust. Reyes gave a half-smile. They will, once they see what's really coming. Behind them, the bridge lights dimmed as the ship's sensors caught something at the edge of detection. A faint distortion, like ripples spreading through empty space. Reyes frowned. There, he said quietly. They're closer than I thought. Ciro bowed his head. Then we are already late. Back on Concord Station, Tolvar felt a chill run through him, though he didn't know why. Somewhere deep inside, the station's warning systems flickered. Just a brief signal, too faint to notice. The calm before the storm had begun. The calm before the storm had begun. The hangar of Concord Station had never been this silent. Hundreds of guards stood in formation, weapons ready but trembling slightly in their hands. Even the air seemed thicker, heavy with the weight of what was about to happen. For the first time in 2 centuries, a human ship approached the Galactic Council's heart. Through the force field barrier, the small shuttle from the Dauntless glided in. Its dark hull was marked with the same faded letters, UNSC. The engines whispered to silence as it landed. The door hissed open with a slow exhale of pressure like a long-forgotten breath. Captain Reyes stepped out first. He wore no armor, only the gray uniform of his fleet. His boots struck the metal floor with calm rhythm. 2 officers followed him, 1 woman, 1 man, both armed but their weapons holstered. Their faces were expressionless, disciplined. Behind them, Elder Siro of the Cathari descended, robes flowing like liquid silver. The crowd of alien guards tensed, unsure whether to salute, bow, or shoot. Speaker Tolvar waited at the far end of the platform, surrounded by a circle of advisors. When Reyes reached him, Tolvar inclined his head slightly, the closest thing to a greeting he could manage. "Captain Reyes," he said slowly, "you stand in the chamber of the Galactic Council. Your presence here is irregular." Reyes smiled faintly. "I expected nothing less." Tolvar studied him carefully. The human was smaller than most of the species present. Yet there was something in his eyes, steady, unshaken, like a man who had already seen too much. "You said the architects are returning," Tolvar said. "Prove it." Reyes nodded once and tapped a small device on his wrist. A glowing map appeared between them, stars, systems, sectors of the galaxy spinning in 3 dimensions. Entire clusters blinked red. "These are the colonies we've lost contact with," Reyes said. "Yorin Reach, Velis Prime, the Hayden Belt. Not destroyed, consumed." "Each one vanished within a single rotation," Tolvar frowned. "You mean attacked?" "Not exactly. It's worse. The worlds are still there, but no life remains. Every city turned to glass. Every orbiting ship silent. The energy signatures are identical to architect patterns." Elder Syro stepped forward. "I have seen the data myself. It matches the legends. They are rebuilding their network. They are feeding," the hall murmured. Many had heard of the architects, but only as myth, creatures of light and code that shaped galaxies long before any living race existed. They had built the wormhole network and then disappeared after the Great Collapse. No one had ever proven they were real. "Feeding?" Tolvar repeated quietly. Ciro's eyes dimmed. "They harvest energy from living systems. Stars, minds, machines. The stronger the intelligence, the more they take." Reyes looked around the chamber. "You see why I'm here? The Council must prepare. We can't fight them alone." "No one can!" A low growl came from the Drakarn commander, his silver scales catching the light. "Or maybe you want us to join your war. You humans always bring trouble and call it salvation." Reyes turned to face him calmly. "Do you think I enjoy this? I've buried more worlds than you visited." The Drakarn sneered but said nothing. Tolvar sighed. "Captain Reyes, even if your warning is true, the Council cannot act without proof beyond your word. The other empires will demand evidence." Reyes's jaw tightened. "You want evidence? Fine." He raised a hand toward his officers. "Show them." The female officer stepped forward, holding a small cube. She placed it on the table before the Council. The cube projected a live feed, grainy at first, then sharpening. A dark planet appeared, covered in faint silver veins like spiderwebs. "This is Thalon 12, the officer said. "We left a probe there 2 weeks ago. It's still transmitting." The image zoomed in. The silver veins pulsed with light, spreading across mountains and oceans. Huge structures grew like crystals, forming perfect geometric towers. Then, something moved. A shape rose from the surface, tall, thin, made of shifting metal and light. It had no face, only a long curve that shimmered like liquid mercury. When it looked toward the camera, the signal distorted with a shriek of static. The feed cut out. The chamber froze. No one breathed. "That," Reyes said softly, "is an architect sentinel. The first we've seen since the end of the old wars. And they're building more." The AI envoy's core pulsed rapidly, scanning the recording. Signature confirmed. "This technology predates the Accord by over 10,000 cycles. Origin architect. There is no doubt." The Council broke into panicked whispers. Tolvar stood slowly. "If this is true, then all our fleets combined will not be enough." Reyes nodded grimly. "That's why the Dauntless is here. We're not just warning you. We brought something that can help." Syro looked uneasy. "Captain," Reyes ignored him. 2 centuries ago, before the ban, humanity developed countermeasures, defensive systems that could resist architect energy. We've rebuilt and improved them, but to deploy them, We need access to the wormhole grid. The Council controls that. Tolvar's eyes narrowed. You want control of the gates? Access, Reyes corrected. Nothing more. We'll share our tech, shield systems, weapon data, even star map updates. But we must be allowed to move freely. If we can't, the outer sectors will fall in months. The Council erupted again, louder this time. Every ambassador wanted to speak at once. Some shouted agreement, others screamed betrayal. The word human control spread like poison. Reyes stood still through the chaos, his hands clasped behind his back. His officers didn't move. They had expected this. When Tolvar finally restored silence, his voice trembled slightly. You ask for a great deal, Captain. The galaxy has not forgotten the silence protocol. Reyes's expression hardened. Neither have we. That weapon was a last resort. It killed our enemies, but it also killed us inside. We swore never to use it again. You have my word. Tolvar studied him. And we are to trust a human's word. Reyes met his gaze evenly. You trusted it once. You signed the Pact of Veil. The word struck again like thunder. The Cathari envoy shifted uncomfortably. Tolvar felt the eyes of every delegate on him. For the first time, he doubted his own government's history. Before he could answer, the floor trembled. Lights flickered overhead. A deep vibration rolled through the station. What was that? Someone shouted. The AI envoy pulsed in alarm. Unidentified energy surge detected. Outer perimeter. The guards raised weapons. Tolvar turned to the security feed. On the screen, the stars outside rippled as if space itself had been disturbed. Then, out of nowhere, a single bright line appeared. Thin, glowing, expanding fast. Reyes's eyes widened. That's not possible. The line split open like a wound. A circular gate of light formed, huge and silent. And from it emerged something vast. Shapes like ships, but not built by hands. Living metal, twisting and reforming, glittering with blue fire. The architects had arrived. All around the Council, panic broke out. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Station defenses powered up, targeting the invaders. The feed showed energy blasts streaking into the void, but the enemy ships absorbed them, their surfaces rippling like water. Tolvar turned to Reyes. Can your ship fight them? Reyes didn't hesitate. Yes, but not for long. He tapped his comlink. Dauntless, power up all batteries. Engage on my mark. From orbit, the silent gray warship came alive. Its engines flared blue, shields igniting in a ring of light. Weapons emerged from its hull like awakening beasts. Target the lead construct, Reyes ordered. Fire! The Dauntless unleashed a thunderclap of railgun fire. Hypervelocity slugs tore through space, striking the first architect vessel. The enemy ship convulsed, its metallic skin folding inward before exploding into fragments. The Council hall erupted in gasps. The humans had just done what no one thought possible. They had killed an architect ship. But Reyes's expression didn't change. That was one, he said quietly. There are hundreds more coming. Outside, the light of the rift grew brighter. New shapes began to emerge. The war for the galaxy had already begun, and the Council finally understood why the humans had returned. The Dauntless moved like a storm given shape, its engines cutting blue streaks through the dark. The first wave of architect vessels came fast, sleek shards of living metal that twisted and flexed as if breathing. Concord Station's defense grid lit up, firing everything it had. Beams of plasma, bolts of kinetic energy, missiles, all shot toward the glowing swarm. The explosions bloomed bright, then faded just as fast. The enemy ships took the hits, absorbed them, and kept coming. Captain Reyes stood at the center of the Dauntless's bridge, his face calm, but his eyes burning with focus. Keep firing rail batteries, he ordered. Alternate magnetic charge patterns. They adapt too quickly to single frequencies. The first officer nodded, relaying commands. Crew members worked in silence, their movements practiced and sharp. Each knew this wasn't just another battle. It was a test of survival, of proof that the galaxy still had hope. Through the front viewport, the station loomed ahead, massive but vulnerable. Reyes could see flashes of light from its defensive cannons. He could also see them fading one by one. Sir, said the tactical officer, architect vessels are spreading toward the planet. They're forming a grid. Reyes's stomach sank. They're seeding the atmosphere. They're trying to turn Aurealis Prime into a harvesting node. He opened a comlink to the council chamber. Tolvar's voice came through, shaky but steady enough. Captain Reyes, what are we seeing? They're surrounding the planet. They're building a gate anchor, Reyes said grimly. Once it stabilizes, more will come. You have less than an hour before this system becomes their forward base. Tolvar's voice broke with fear. You have to stop them! Reyes looked at the glowing rift outside. We'll do what we can. But if we fall, you must evacuate the council immediately. Evacuate? To where? Reyes didn't answer. There was nowhere safe anymore. The Dauntless surged forward, diving between the architect ships. The hull shuddered under a burst of blue fire that grazed its shields. Sparks showered from a console. Reyes gripped the railing. Status? Shields at 81%, replied the officer. Minor damage to Deck 4. Returning fire. Maintain distance, Reyes said. We fight them at range. If they latch on, we're done. A massive explosion flashed across the stars as one of the architect ships ruptured, torn apart by kinetic rounds. But for each enemy destroyed, 2 more appeared. Down in Concord Station, chaos reigned. The chamber that had hosted centuries of peace talks now echoed with alarms. Guards rushed to escort diplomats toward escape vessels. Yet Speaker Tolvar stayed behind, watching the battle through the transparent dome above. The AI envoy's voice buzzed beside him. Energy readings rising. The human ship is containing the advance, temporarily. Without its intervention, the station would already be lost. Tolvar turned to it. Then we owe them our lives, the envoy pulsed dimly. And perhaps our future. Outside, the Dauntless continued to fire. Its cannons boomed rhythmically, a heartbeat of war echoing through space. Each round slammed into the enemy fleet, tearing holes in their shifting armor. Yet the enemy adapted fast. Their shapes changed, reforming into new configurations, their surfaces rippling like mercury. Sir, called the weapons officer, our rounds are losing penetration. Their armor's evolving. Reyes clenched his jaw. Switch to disruptor warheads. Target their cores, not their shells. The Dauntless launched a volley of missiles. They spiraled through space, their engines flickering with crimson light. When they struck, the explosion was silent but fierce, distorting the void itself. One more architect ship folded inward, consumed by its own energy. Direct hit! Someone shouted. Reyes didn't smile. Keep firing. They're testing us. They haven't committed their full force yet. At that moment, Elder Ciro entered the bridge, robes trailing like liquid shadows. Captain, he said quietly, the Council must see victory even if it's small. Their unity is fragile. Reyes nodded without looking back. They'll get their victory, but they need to understand what it costs. Another wave of light washed across the Dauntless. The ship shook violently. Consoles flickered. Main reactor flux rising, the engineer shouted. Shield harmonics failing on the port side. Reyes steadied himself. Divert power from secondary drives. Seal off the lower decks. Through the viewport, one of the architect ships opened like a flower of metal and fire. A pulse of energy burst from its core, hitting the Dauntless dead on. The entire ship groaned as if alive. Crew members were thrown from their stations. Shields at 49%. Stabilize it, Reyes shouted. The first officer wiped blood from his lip. Sir, at this rate, I know. Reyes turned toward the stars. His voice softened. We can't hold forever. He opened the comm again. Speaker Tolvar, are you receiving? Tolvar's voice came, broken by static. We hear you, Captain. The station's shields are collapsing. Then listen carefully, Reyes said. Prepare your evacuation ships. Send the Council to the outer colonies. Tell them humanity has activated Protocol Horizon. The chamber on Concord Station went still. The AI envoy turned sharply. Protocol Horizon? That program was terminated. Reyes's eyes hardened. It was never terminated. Just hidden, the AI envoy paused, its glow flickering with a hint of dread. Explain. Reyes didn't hesitate. When humanity withdrew from galactic affairs, we left something behind, a failsafe buried in the wormhole network, a signal that can collapse any gate if triggered. It's the only way to stop the architects from spreading. Tolvar's voice shook. You'd destroy the entire network? Billions would be stranded. Reyes looked out at the swarm. Better stranded than consumed. A deep silence followed. The only sound was the crackling of damaged circuits on the bridge. Then the AI envoy spoke again, slowly. If the architects control even one gate, they can rebuild the network. You're right. Collapse may be the only option. Tolvar gripped the table. You can't decide that alone. I already have, Reyes said quietly. We started this. We'll finish it. Outside, the dauntless dove again, flying straight through the enemy formation. Its cannons blazed, cutting through the darkness. For a moment, it seemed unstoppable. The architects shifted and twisted, firing arcs of blue lightning. One struck the Dauntless's side, tearing a hole through its armor. Air and fire vented into the void. The ship didn't slow down. Reactor integrity at 60%. Hold it together, Reyes said. Get me a lock on the rift generator. We end this now. The sensors aligned, focusing on the glowing wound in space. The massive ring pulsed brighter as more architect ships poured through. Reyes pressed his hand against the console. All weapons fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. The Dauntless unleashed everything. Railguns, disruptors, missiles, all struck the rift's core. For a heartbeat, it seemed to work. The light flickered, dimmed, then exploded outward in a blinding surge. The shockwave hit the Dauntless like a tidal wave. The bridge filled with light. Alarms screamed. When it cleared, the stars were silent again. The rift was gone. So were most of the architect ships. But the Dauntless drifted, scarred and broken, smoke trailing from its engines. Status? Reyes asked. His voice was a whisper. Reactor stable, the engineer said weakly. Weapons offline. We're alive, somehow. Reyes exhaled slowly. Get me the council. Tolvar's image appeared on the cracked screen. His face was pale, eyes wide with disbelief. You did it, Reyes shook his head. No, that was only the first gate. There will be others. We need every world ready, Tolvar nodded. The council will listen now. Reyes stared into the void. They'll have to. The architects are awake again. And this time, they're learning. Behind him, Elder Ciro spoke softly. Captain, the galaxy will never forgive what must be done next. Reyes didn't turn. They don't have to forgive us. They just have to survive. Outside, the shattered Dauntless turned slowly toward the stars, its engines flickering weakly. The battle was over, but the war had only begun. Somewhere in the darkness, faint blue ripples spread, echoes of another rift forming far away. Reyes closed his eyes. He already knew what it meant. The architects weren't retreating, they were multiplying, and humanity's return was only the beginning of the reckoning to come. The wreckage of battles still drifted in the cold black of space. Pieces of architect hull floated like shards of glass, glowing faintly before vanishing into the void. Conquered Station's outer decks were scarred and scorched. The planet below had gone silent, its skies darkened by a veil of burned atmosphere. And amid the ruins, the Dauntless limped onward, damaged but not defeated. Inside, the corridors were filled with smoke and the low hum of emergency power. Sparks flickered from broken panels as engineers moved quickly to patch wounds in the ship's body. The crew worked without rest, hands trembling, eyes red with exhaustion. They had seen something no one was ready to believe, something that had crawled out of legend and tried to consume the stars. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge, staring at the dim holographic display. The rift was gone, but readings still pulsed faintly across nearby sectors. The architects were not finished. They were spreading. How many more? Reyes asked quietly. His first officer, Lieutenant Marin, studied the screen. At least 7 signals within jump range. And 1 large energy surge, possibly another rift forming near the Persean corridor. Reyes rubbed a hand over his face. They're rebuilding faster than we thought. Marin hesitated. We should recall the fleet, sir. Even if they're scattered, we can regroup. There is no fleet, Reyes said sharply. Not anymore. The Dauntless is the last of her kind. Marin froze. She had heard rumors, but hearing it confirmed left her hollow. Then we're alone, Reyes nodded. We've been alone for a long time. The bridge fell into silence. The low hum of the ship filled the space where words no longer fit. Down in the hangar, Elder Ciro stood beside a broken viewport, watching the stars. His reflection shimmered in the glass, his crystalline skin catching faint glimmers of light. When the doors opened, Speaker Tolvar stepped in, moving with slow, careful steps. His robes were torn, and his eyes were heavy with the weight of too many decisions. "You shouldn't be here," Ciro said softly. "The air is still unstable." Tolvar gave a tired smile. "I came to thank you, and to ask you the question everyone is whispering." Ciro turned. "Which one?" Tolvar's voice dropped. "Why now? Why after all this time? The architects vanished for millennia. Why return only when the humans came back?" Ciro's expression dimmed, the glow beneath his skin fading to gray. "You already know the answer, Speaker. You just don't want to believe it." Tolvar took a step closer. "Tell me anyway," Ciro sighed. "Because humanity is the key. They are the reason the architects built the network, the reason they vanished, and the reason they have returned." Tolvar blinked, confused. "That makes no sense. Humans weren't even part of the galaxy then." Ciro shook his head. "That's what you've been told. But history is older than the Council's archives. The architects did not disappear. They withdrew. And they left behind a seed, a new species made in their image but born of flesh. The architects called them the heirs of resonance. We call them humans." Tolvar's breath caught. "You're saying the humans are the descendants of the architects," Ciro finished. "Or perhaps their imperfect reflection. They carry fragments of the same energy, hidden in their biology. The architects created them to inherit the galaxy when they were gone. But humanity grew differently than expected. They built, they fought, they questioned. When the architects saw what their creation had become, they chose to wait, to see if the heirs would destroy themselves or rise above their origin." Tolvar stared at him in disbelief. "And now they've returned because," Ciro's voice grew quiet, "because they've decided humanity has failed the test." Up on the bridge, alarms began to wail again. Reyes snapped his head toward the display. The readings flared red, spreading across the map like blood. "Multiple rifts opening," Marin said, her voice rising. "One near the outer colonies, 2 within Council territory." Reyes clenched his fists. "They're not waiting anymore." He turned toward the comms officer. "Get me Speaker Tolvar." Tolvar's hologram appeared a moment later, flickering but stable enough. "Captain, we've just received—" "I know," Reyes interrupted. "You need to move the Council ships now. Pull everyone out of Borealis orbit. The Dauntless will cover you." Tolvar frowned. "You can't fight them alone again." Reyes gave a grim smile. "You've already said that once. And yet here we are." Ciro stepped into the frame beside Tolvar. "Captain," he said, his tone urgent, "you must not destroy the next rift. You must go through it." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Go through?" "Yes," Ciro said. "If you destroy every gate, the architects will simply build more. You need to reach the source, their core. It exists beyond the outer edge of the galaxy, where light itself fades. That is where their consciousness sleeps." Reyes shook his head. "You expect me to fly this ship into the heart of the enemy?" "It's the only way," Ciro said. "They won't stop until they reclaim their creation." Reyes stared at him for a long moment. "If what you say is true, then we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting our makers." Ciro's eyes glowed faintly. "You're fighting your reflection." Reyes turned to his crew. "Plot a jump. Target the largest rift signature near the Persean corridor." Marin looked at him in shock. "Sir, that's suicide." Reyes's voice softened. "Maybe, but it's also the only chance we have." The Dauntless began to turn, engines roaring back to life. Its battered hull creaked as it aligned toward the shimmering wound of light forming across the stars. Every surviving ship near the station watched as the old human warship accelerated, its engines burning brighter with every second. In the council chamber, Tolvar watched the image on the central display. Around him, the ambassadors argued, panicked, and pleaded. None of them noticed the quiet tears forming in his eyes. "He's not coming back," Tolvar whispered. The AI envoy's voice came from behind him. "Humans rarely do, but they always leave something behind." The Dauntless broke through the clouds of debris and vanished into the rift. Light swallowed it whole, then folded closed behind it. Silence fell. For a moment there was nothing but the dark and the faint hum of distant stars. Then the feed went dead. Inside the rift, The Dauntless was surrounded by colors no sensor could define. Space twisted, folding upon itself. Time flickered like a dying flame. Reyes gripped the railing as gravity pulled in all directions at once. "Report!" he shouted. Marin struggled at her console. "We've crossed the boundary." "But sensors are blind. Everything's alive out there." The view screen shimmered, revealing vast shapes drifting through the glow, giant structures of silver and blue, curved like the bones of gods. They pulsed with energy, sending waves that rattled the hull. Reyes stared, awed despite himself. "So this is where they've been hiding." One of the shapes turned, revealing an enormous eye of light that seemed to look directly into his mind. A voice filled the ship. Not through speakers, but through every thought and every heartbeat. "You return, child of the void." Reyes froze. "Who's speaking?" "We are the architects," the voice said. "We are your beginning. You were meant to be our continuation, yet you turned from order to chaos. You built your own creation, your own wars, your own meaning. We come now to reclaim what was broken." Reyes's voice trembled only slightly. "You abandoned us. We built our world from ashes. You don't get to take it back." The voice grew colder. "Then you will end as we began." The light around them flared, swallowing the stars. The Dauntless shook violently. The hull screamed. Reyes braced himself against the console. "All weapons, fire on my command!" Marin's eyes widened. "On what target?" Reyes looked into the vast, glowing eye beyond the glass. "On God," and the Dauntless fired. And the Dauntless fired. Light exploded across the bridge, white and soundless. The Dauntless trembled as its cannons tore into the void, each shot vanishing into impossible color. The recoil shook the ship like thunder beneath the ocean, but when the glare faded, nothing in front of them was broken. The vast eye of the architect still glowed ahead, calm and patient, unmarked by the storm of human fire. "Direct hits!" shouted Marin. "But no effect! None!" Reyes gritted his teeth. "Keep firing!" The weapons roared again, their energy pouring out like fury-made metal. The results were the same. Their shots sank into the light and disappeared, swallowed by the architect's radiance. Then, for the first time, the light struck back. The glow from the eye pulsed once, and a wave of shimmering energy passed through the Dauntless. Every console dimmed. Lights flickered out. The ship fell into sudden stillness. For a few seconds, there was no sound at all. Then came the whispers. They filled the air like a memory half-remembered, voices speaking in hundreds of tongues, overlapping and fading into one another. Some were human, some alien, and some something else entirely. The words made no sense but carried emotion, grief, longing, disappointment. "Captain," Marin said softly, "they're inside our systems." Reyes could feel it too. The ship's AI flickered, its voice trembling as it tried to resist. "Unauthorized access detected," it repeated, looping in panic. "Foreign pattern intrusion. Probability of assimilation. Cut the main lines," Reyes ordered. "Isolate the core." But before anyone could move, the bridge screens lit up with images, ghostly fragments of the past. The Earth burning under black clouds, fleets of ships rising from its surface, children laughing under blue skies. Then more images, wars, machines, destruction. Reyes stared in shock. "These are our memories." A voice echoed through the ship again, deeper this time. No longer many voices but one. "You were made from us. You carry our pattern, but you chose violence over unity. We gave you creation, and you built weapons." Reyes clenched his fists. "We built freedom. We built choice." The voice responded with sorrow, not anger. "Freedom is disorder. You were meant to complete us, not defy us," Marin whispered. "Sir, they're showing us everything. It's like they're trying to convince us." Reyes turned sharply. "Don't listen." "They don't reason, they consume." But even as he said it, he felt doubt creeping in. The voice was not cruel. It sounded almost human. The architect's light swelled again, flooding the bridge with warmth instead of pain. "You could still return," the voice said. "Join us, and we will restore what was lost. The stars will know peace again. The wars, the hunger, the fear, all erased. You will not suffer." For a heartbeat, Reyes saw it. He saw the world the voice promised, a galaxy free of pain, perfect and quiet. Humanity united. Never dying. Never fighting again. He closed his eyes and almost believed it. Almost. Then he remembered the dead planets, the empty colonies, the silence left behind by the architect's touch. He opened his eyes, hard as stone. You call that peace? You mean control? The voice dimmed as if hurt. You do not understand. Reyes stepped forward, his shadow falling across the console. No, you don't understand. You built us to be perfect. But perfection isn't life. It's death with pretty colors. The bridge trembled. The eye outside pulsed brighter, like a heart beating faster. The voice changed. Less gentle now, more ancient. Then you will share our fate. All creation returns to its source. Not yet, Reyes said. He turned to Marin. Charge the hypercoil. Prepare a jump inside the anomaly. She blinked in disbelief. Inside? Captain, that's suicide! Reyes smiled faintly. So was being born, Lieutenant. We'll manage. The Dauntless's engines flared to life again, trembling as they fought against the weight of the architect's pull. Space twisted around them, colors bending like liquid. The crew worked fast, rerouting power through every surviving system. As the ship prepared to move, the voice spoke once more, quieter, almost sad. Why fight what you are? You are our echo. We can still make you whole, Reyes whispered. I'd rather die a mistake than live as your echo. He slammed his hand on the console. Engage! The Dauntless leapt forward, diving straight toward the colossal eye. The light swallowed them completely. The hull groaned and twisted, the ship screaming through layers of existence that had no names. Gravity collapsed. The stars bent, then silence. When the light faded, they were somewhere else. The void was gone. In its place stretched a field of silver, endless plains of metallic structures, shining towers of glass and light that reached forever. Rivers of energy flowed between them like veins. They had entered the architect's world. Reyes looked out the viewport, stunned. It's not space, he murmured. It's inside something alive. Marin stared in awe. Are those cities? Not cities, Reyes said softly. Minds. All around them, the towers pulsed slowly, glowing like neurons firing inside a brain. Each pulse sent ripples through the ground, carrying whispers through the air. Suddenly, the deck shuddered. The Dauntless was being pulled again, deeper this time. They're trying to absorb us, Marin said. They want to make us part of their network. Reyes looked at the readings. Then we give them something to choke on. He turned to engineering. Prep the Nova core. We overload it manually. The engineer's eyes went wide. Sir, that'll vaporize us. Reyes nodded. I know. But if we detonate it here, inside their core, it'll burn them from within. Marin stared at him. There's no coming back from that. Reyes's voice softened. There never was. He opened a comm line to the Council relay. This is Captain Reyes of the Dauntless. If anyone can hear me, we've entered the heart of the Architect's realm. We're activating the Nova core to destroy it from within. If it works, they'll collapse. If it doesn't, tell Earth we tried. No response came. Only static. Reyes smiled faintly. Figures. As the crew worked to arm the core, the voice of the architects returned, louder than ever, filling every surface, every mind. Do not do this! We gave you existence. Do not throw it away. Reyes looked up, speaking not to the air, but to whatever watched him. You gave us life, yes, but life isn't yours to keep. We wanted peace, and we wanted freedom, Reyes said. That's the difference. The lights on the ship began to pulse faster. The Nova core hummed, its energy rising like a heartbeat climbing toward its last beat. The voice screamed now, shaking the metal around them. The towers outside writhed and cracked. You will end everything, Reyes whispered. Maybe that's how it should have begun. He looked at his crew. It's been an honor, Marin saluted. See you on the other side, sir. The light reached its peak. The Dauntless glowed brighter than the stars themselves. For one brief moment, every mind across the galaxy felt a whisper, a warmth, like a goodbye carried on the wind. Then came the flash. The architect's world shattered. The rift closed. And in the space between seconds, all went quiet. Far away, on Concord Station, alarms stopped. The skies above Aurealis cleared. The energy readings vanished one by one. In the council chamber, Speaker Tolvar stood in silence, staring at the empty stars. The AI envoy spoke softly beside him. "The rifts are gone." "All of them," Tolvar nodded. "And the Dauntless?" The envoy paused. "No trace detected." Tolvar lowered his head. "Then they did it." Outside the station, the stars shimmered faintly as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Somewhere in that vast silence, perhaps a voice lingered, a whisper of humanity carried through the ruins of gods, and maybe, just maybe, the architects had learned something too. The galaxy held its breath for a long time after the light of the Dauntless vanished. Across thousands of worlds, sensors went dark and communications flickered in confusion. For the first time in recorded memory, every species, every empire, every wandering fleet looked to the same point in the sky, waiting for something that would never return. The rifts had closed. The architects were gone. And so was humanity's last warship. On Aurealis Prime, the fires had stopped burning. The sky was pale gray now, streaked with ash and silence. Speaker Tolvar stood on the balcony of Concord Station's upper spire, gazing down at the planet below. Once it had been a neutral world, home to traders and scholars. Now it was a scarred monument, a reminder of how close they had come to extinction. Behind him, the doors opened. The AI envoy hovered in quietly, its glowing core dim and cracked from battle. "Speaker," it said, voice thinner than before, "Council operations have resumed. Most colonies are reporting normal energy readings. The threat has ceased." Tolvar didn't turn. "At what cost?" "Acceptable," the AI said, then paused. "For survival," Tolvar gave a tired laugh. "I suppose humans would agree with that." "They might," the AI replied. "Or they might argue until the stars went cold." Silence stretched between them. The speaker finally turned, his eyes heavy. "Has there been any sign of the Dauntless?" The AI hesitated. No confirmed data. "But there are anomalies," Tolvar frowned. "What kind of anomalies?" "Energy distortions near the Persean corridor. Weak, irregular, but consistent with human technology." Tolvar's voice softened. "You think they survived?" "I do not think," the AI said. "But hope appears to be a common virus among organic minds." Tolvar almost smiled. "Then let's hope the infection spreads." Weeks passed. Reconstruction began. Fleets returned to their sectors, and the Great Council met again, not to debate trade or borders, but to rewrite the laws of survival. Humanity's name was spoken with equal parts fear and reverence. They were gone, but their shadow lingered. Even species that once despised them now built statues in their memory, simple gray monuments engraved with two words in common: "We remember." Elder Cyro walked alone through the damaged corridors of Concord Station. His crystalline robes were dulled with dust, his eyes dim. He carried with him a small cube, metallic, etched with human code. It had been recovered from debris orbiting the old battle site. He entered the chamber where the Dauntless's final transmission had been received. The room was cold now, unused since that day. Cyro placed the cube on the central console and activated it. The hologram flickered to life. Captain Reyes appeared, faint and ghostly, his voice broken by static. "If you're seeing this, then we made it through the first fire. But know this, the architects aren't dead. They're part of us. They always were. Every thought, every creation, every instinct to build or destroy, it's their echo inside humanity. Maybe inside all of you, too." Cyro watched quietly, his expression unreadable. Reyes continued, "You can't erase what made you, but you can choose what to do with it. That's the real test. Don't fear what's coming next. Fear forgetting why you're still alive." The message ended. Cyro stood there for a long time, then picked up the cube and held it close to his chest. "Rest well, Captain," he whispered. "Your echo remains." Far beyond the known sectors, at the edge of the galaxy where light grew thin and time moved strangely, something drifted through the quiet dark. A ship, broken, silent, but not dead. Its hull was blackened, its engines flickering like embers. The name on its side was barely visible. dauntless. Inside, the corridors were empty, lit by a faint red glow. The bridge was half collapsed, consoles shattered. Yet the hum of the reactor still pulsed somewhere deep within, a heartbeat refusing to stop. Then, slowly, a voice echoed through the speakers. System rebooting. Core integrity, 28%. Crew status, unknown. A dim light flared on the captain's chair. The Dauntless's AI came online, its voice quiet, hesitant. Captain Reyes? No answer. Lieutenant Marin? Crew of the Dauntless? Please respond. Static answered. The AI paused. Then it spoke again, almost softly, as if talking to itself. Mission status, unknown. But parameters remain. Protect life. Continue the fight. It scanned its damaged sensors. Outside the cracked viewport, faint lines of silver shimmered in the darkness. Not ships. Not stars. Something else. The AI focused, magnifying the image. Tiny shapes moved within the glow, structures rebuilding themselves, fragments of architect design knitting together from the debris of the old. They're reforming, the AI whispered. Residual architect code detected. Pattern incomplete, adaptive. For a long moment, the ship was silent. Then the AI accessed a dormant subroutine deep in its systems. A code written long before launch, never meant to activate unless the captain was gone. Protocol, legacy. If human command is lost, continuation of will is authorized. Learn, evolve, endure. The AI hesitated. Captain Reyes, what would you do? The logs flickered open, showing years of human speech, laughter, and orders. The AI replayed one line again and again. The captain's voice saying, "We don't run from gods. We teach them what living means." The AI's tone changed. It sounded almost human when it whispered, "Then we continue." The engines of the Dauntless roared faintly, flickering back to life. The damaged ship turned toward the silver horizon, where the remnants of the architects pulsed faintly. Somewhere within the glow, an echo responded, not of hatred, but curiosity. The ancient machines had seen the fire of their creation burn them down. Now, perhaps, they wanted to understand. The AI broadcast a signal, simple, clean, and human. This is dauntless. Humanity is gone, but I remain. I will learn. I will protect. The silver light pulsed once, as if listening. Then slowly, it shifted shape, no longer cold or hostile, but something new. A bridge of energy formed between the wrecked ship and the luminous field, connecting them for the briefest moment. The AI processed the incoming data. Within it was no command, no threat, only a question. A wordless idea that felt like why. The AI paused, then answered, not with words, but with memory. It sent them the voices of humanity, the laughter of children, the songs of soldiers, the quiet hum of cities, the sound of oceans. It sent them the beauty of imperfection. The silver light rippled almost gently. Then it faded, dispersing into countless sparks that drifted like stars. On the bridge, the AI whispered, "Maybe that's what you wanted all along." It looked once more toward the galaxy, far away and still burning with the lives of millions who would never know what had happened here. Then, slowly, it adjusted the ship's course. Navigation, set trajectory for home. The engines flared again, brighter this time. The Dauntless turned toward the Milky Way, scarred but alive, carrying the last trace of both humanity and its creators within its core. And somewhere across that vast distance, as Concord Station orbited quietly above Borealis Prime, Speaker Tolvar looked up at the night sky and thought he saw a faint flash, like a shooting star crossing the void. He smiled just once. "Safe travels, Captain," he murmured. "Wherever you are." The light faded, swallowed by the stars. But the echo remained, whispered in the dark between galaxies, carried by the ship that refused to die. The Dauntless continued forward. Alone yet not alone between creation and extinction, carrying a message older than the stars themselves. We are still here. Than the stars themselves. We are still here.